Welcome to Performance Car Lounge, where each week we speak with enthusiasts selling their beloved performance cars. This week, we speak with the owner of a modified BMW i8. Welcome to the podcast. Today's podcast is coming to you from MR Tuning at Ormo, halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. I'm actually having some new brakes put on my track car in preparation for my next track event, which is King of QR in a couple of weeks. So if you do hear some workshop sounds coming through into the podcast, you'll know why. And today we're very lucky to have the owner of a BMW i8, which for me is quite a fascinating car. It flew under the radar for many years for me. And when I started looking at it recently, I thought this is a really interesting car that deserves more attention. So I'm sure you'll find it interesting to learn about as well. And stick around to the end where I'll reveal what is the most expensive car currently for sale on CarSales today. But first, I'd like to welcome Hugo. Hugo, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm glad to be here.
So tell us about your BMW i8. So for those that don't know, this is a plug-in hybrid sports car made by BMW, obviously. It's mid-engined, it has butterfly doors. It's a two-door coupe that has absolute supercar looks, and it's quite a game changer. Tell us about your car journey and how you wound up to own a BMW i8.
Okay, so the journey, right. Well, basically, look, I'm 31 years young, thankfully. And when I was 22, 23, like most young men, I had no idea what I was doing. I was going through university. I tried to do law for 6 months, didn't work out. That was, it was terrible. I don't think I was good in the books, at focusing and all that. So I decided to go into business. I took a bit of a gap year, went around the world. I did see some cool cars and that. But at the time, to be fair, I wouldn't be able to tell you a single car, any car that was driving down the street. I wouldn't be able to tell you what make or model it is. I wasn't into cars. I didn't know about cars. There was nothing to do there. But I came back from my gap year and went into marketing in Brisbane at QUT. I did that for about, it's a 3-year course. I did that for about a year. And a year into it, we had an assignment given to us, which was think of your own business and present it to the class. Anything, be an entrepreneur, think of a business and present it. And I was sitting there in my study, in my apartment, and I was thinking, I not only want to, make up some business and present it, which is what all the kids are going to do. I want to try and think of a business to present and actually do it. And an idea, well, it wasn't so much of an idea. What happened was I had a lady in the complex of my apartment that telling me that she wanted to get rid of her old car. It was a little Mercedes. She said she didn't know how to use the computer. She didn't know how to go about selling it. And she'd spoken to a few dealerships and they had offered her bugger all. So I said to her, hey, look, I'm good on Gumtree. I know how to use Marketplace. Why don't I help you out? I'll take a few pictures of your car. I'll have a look. I'll find the same model online because at the time, as I said, I got no idea about cars. But I'll easily find your car online that's for sale, so I can have a comparison of price and I can find out, what it is and how I can advertise it. And look, I'll help you out. And so I advertised her car. I found out that obviously in Queensland you need a roadworthy, probably like the rest of Australia, yeah. And I called up a mechanic. She had looked after it very well. The car was in great condition, so the roadworthy was passed, and I knew that I was kind of ready to really sell the car for her. So I uploaded her car on Gumtree and Marketplace, and I think within a week, I sold the car for her at the price she wanted, and she gave me a $500 commission. Light bulbs.
Sounds like a light bulb moment. Yeah.
Light bulbs were going off, and I thought, hang on, this is great. I don't have to slave, working at Subway or Telstra or what have you, whilst I'm studying. How about I start talking to people or even advertising to help people sell their vehicles? And at the same time, I thought, hang on, this is my assignment. Like this is an entrepreneur idea. This is a business. So I'm gonna do it physically, and I'll write about it and I'll make it into my assignment. So I started going around to my complex, talking to everyone that I knew, made some pamphlets, online, had like 1,000 of them printed out, went around to the rich suburbs and just basic suburbs around Brisbane and started putting them in the letterboxes saying, hi, if you don't know how to use a computer, if you're too busy, you don't have time, what for whatever reason you can't do it yourself, but you want to get rid of your vehicle, ring me. I will do all the work. I will advertise your car at your desired price. If we don't get a sale, if we don't get the results that you want, I don't get paid. So you can't lose. Give it a go. And if we do get a sale, you can give me a commission depending on how expensive the car is. I'll be fair. We'll come to an agreement, and you'll be happy because the car will no longer be in your driveway or in your garage.
Right.
Mate, it worked. I started getting calls. I started getting lots of people asking me to sell their cars, and off I was, advertising 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 cars every week for people around Brisbane. I was making money. Like, it was not great at the time, it might have only been some weeks I could have made $1,000, some weeks less. But here I am, a 22-year-old kid at uni doing business, and all of a sudden I don't have to spend 30 hours a week, again at Subway or what have you, to make my $800 a week. I can just go to a few people's houses, advertise their vehicles, sit at home while people message me, and then go meet them up, at the customer's property, and do the inspection, see if I can get a sale. And I instantly saw that I was a born salesman and I was good at this. I was good at speaking, and it worked out. So I started obviously researching cars, and the more you advertise and look at cars, the more you learn about cars. So that's how it started with me with cars. And then what I did was, it was a stand-up presentation, with a PowerPoint, and I ended up walking in and going, here is my idea for a business, and hang on, it's not an idea. I've turned it into a full-blown business.
Yeah.
Here is what I've made. Here is what I project that I will be making. And I showed them all of the cars that I'd been selling, photos with customers that were happy that their cars had been sold, all of this stuff. And the presentation went well. I got good grades. Funnily enough, after everyone did their speeches and it was all done, there was a fellow that was sitting in the crowd at the lecture or at the presentation from Deloitte. And for everyone that doesn't know who Deloitte is, they're a major entrepreneurial company. They have a they have a big building and office in Brisbane, and they deal with like out of the box entrepreneurs that have all these ideas. They invited me to do the presentation that I had done in uni to their head office or whatever, to their team at Deloitte. So I went in there and did the same thing again. Now they loved it, and they said, "Look, kid, you've got a couple years to go in your university. We want to keep communicating with you. We want to see what you're up to. But we think this is great." Not much came of that, but it was great to have Deloitte, bring me in
Yeah.
there
Bit of
and do
recognition.
anything. And maybe if I had actually finished my university, and I would have maybe ended up in Deloitte or something. But
Well, Hugo,
what happened?
it
Yeah,
sounds like you were learning more outside of university than you were learning at
yeah. This,
university.
this is where the catch comes. Is another 6 months down the track, I'm busy as doing this car thing, and I've realized like there's no point on helping people sell their furniture or small items that have low amounts, because the margins are little. I'm not going to get a good commission, but I still spend the exact amount of time taking a picture of a sofa than I do of a car and advertising a car or a sofa. So I had to focus on big ticket items. So I started also doing boats or anything, trailers, anything that was large, buses, whatever you want to sell that's got some money involved. I'll advertise it on CarSales, Gumtree, Marketplace. I'll get the job done for you. And so within 6 months of doing all this, I spoke to one of my professors. He came up to me and said, how's the whole car business thing going? And I looked at him and I said, mate, I don't have time to come to class. Like this is ridiculous. I'm doing a couple grand a week and I'm barely working 20 hours a week. Like, I don't know what to do. And he dead set looked at me and said, quit uni. My tutor, my professor at university, one year into my 3-year business course, said, just drop out and go into it full blown. I didn't tell you this. I mean, he said to me, don't repeat this.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want the university knowing that I've told you this, but just get out and keep going. And I thought, what the heck? I failed at law. I wasn't really enjoying going to the classes in business. I always felt like they're teaching. Look, they teach, but you learn so much more outside, face to face,
Yeah.
dealing with people.
What
So I quit instantly, and I decided to do it full time, and it went well. And it didn't take me a month to realize, hey, I shouldn't just selling for people. I should also sell my own vehicles. So I, went and researched how to do a dealer's license. I went and got my dealer's license course, and it really blew up from there. I started going to auctions, and I started buying cars. Example, I was doing low end cars, and I still am, because I believe that the majority of the Australian market, 80% of the people, they don't have money for 20 grand cars. They all have money for 4 to 8 grand cars. They're the people that need a car instantly because it's broken down, or they got a new job. They've got to get there. So your turnover and your margins are actually much higher. And if you get into the details, your GST is much lower when you get, and everything seems to be much simpler when you're dealing in low end cars. So I went to the auctions. I started buying lots of cars. I'm living in a apartment block, residential street in the middle of Brisbane, and I got 10 cars of my own, all in the streets,
all
mate.
parked up and down the street? Yeah.
It's a zoo. So before I know it, I got the council come up to my door and go, "Hey, look, it's a kind of illegal to sell, to run a business from the public streets of Brisbane. You got to stop this. You need to either get a yard, like get a dealership, or stop doing what you're doing."
Yeah.
So I thought, hey, it's working. Why not? I went and rented a full blown dealership in Brisbane. It was in Milton Road. This is in 2018 at the time, and I had the shop, had everything, and I started going to the auctions more and more. And before I knew it, I had 20 cars in the lot. I had a couple of employees, a mechanic working for me full time because I didn't know anything about fixing cars. He was the man to make them roadworthy, and I was the man to advertise them and sell them. And I was also smart enough to do something that I think no dealership does in Brisbane. Is, as you can see behind me, maybe I've got my little Calvin Cars logo. Is the biggest point is it's no walk-ins. So every dealership are open 9 to 5. You can walk in at any time and view the vehicles. I believe that nobody does this anymore. They all go on marketplace sourcing cars. So there is no point on sitting around all day in your dealership, in your office, just to sell a few cars. What you do is no walk-ins. They will all contact you online because all your vehicles are online with all the photos, all the information, and you tell them, hey, yeah, I'm going to be at the shop from 10 to 2 every day. So maybe 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day. You can all come at the same time. And mate, it worked. So I still managed to only work a good 20 to 25 hours a week, if that, Monday to Thursday sort of style. And I was flipping lots of cars and it was going great. And that is how my car journey and my career and my life took off.
That's quite a fascinating and inspirational story. So your business is doing well. You're making some good coin, and now you must be thinking, I'm going to start buying some nice cars for myself. So where did your car journey lead you then?
Selling cars for people, and actually watching my little brother, who's only 7 years younger than me, Theo. He was into old school BMWs like E30s, E36s. I saw him doing them up, buying them. They were, as everyone will agree, they're an amazing car to drive, rear wheel drive. They feel great. I decided to buy myself a little E36. It was only a 318, but it was great. It was BMW, and I was like, wow, this is a good car. I started off with that. It didn't take me a month to go, hey, I want the top of the line of the E36s, which is obviously your M3.
Yeah.
They were hard to source at the time. They were, they were around 20 grand. Me being me, pretty witty and being online all the time, I found an old bloke in Tasmania that had advertised his mint E36 M3 in the wrong category on Gumtree. He hadn't put it on Marketplace.
Right.
He had it on for 14 grand when they were worth a lot more.
He's the opposite of one of those guys who I know what I've got and I know what it's worth. He doesn't know what he has and doesn't.
He didn't know what he had, and he didn't know how to advertise it. And obviously you'll probably I'll send you all these pictures so you can pull them up as we go and people can see. I bought his absolutely classic M3 E36. It was the 3 liter, and it was stock, completely stock. I put it on a truck. I offered him 9 grand, and he took it.
Okay, so
from
so you
from
you you stole an M3.
I
And
stole an M3. I put
yeah,
it on a truck from Tasmania, and sorry, and it arrived in Brisbane a couple of weeks later, and I was over the moon. I was on the E36 forums. Everyone was blowing up at my M3. It had nothing wrong with it. It was fast as all hell, and I was like, "Wow, this is great." I took my time, probably 6 months, to do it up, and I'll try and send you a stock photo and then a non-stock photo. I put the BBSs, I lowered it, I tuned it, I put a diffuser on it, a wing. I made it really, really so it looked the part. And I had that for a year and a half. But I was always focused on making my life financially stable. So I wanted property, I wanted housing, and I always thought to myself, I love these vehicles, I love it, but if I can sell it and use it as a house deposit, I'm going to do that. So I had over a year with tax return, right, as a sole trader. So I went and talked to the bank and I showed them my progress, and they were very impressed with everything I'd done. They said, look, if you can come up with around 60, 70 grand as a deposit, we'll give you the rest and you can purchase your first property. I didn't hesitate for a second, mate. I put the E36 up for 25 grand,
yeah,
and it didn't take too long, and I got it. I think I got 23 for it from a gentleman in Melbourne. So I put that with my savings, and that was it. The E36 M3 was gone. I cried for a little minute, but it wasn't too bad.
yeah,
And I bought my first property, which at the end of the day, I love my cars, but I wanna be set up with real estate.
yeah,
So I was able to buy my first house. Then I kept going, selling cars, doing well, and I learned the big trick at that stage is start a company, go from sole trader to company, and what you can do is you can buy a fancy car every year, right? That you need for your business to write off the taxes.
yeah,
So that's how I got into the really big end cars. Is I was getting massive tax bills and I wanted to lower them. And I was
yeah,
always saving all my money. So I had capital, I had everything I needed to be able to get low interest rates on financing vehicles. And I could also say they were stock in the yard and they just weren't selling. That's legal. So I
yeah,
could either, yeah. So that's how it started. And from the E36 M3, I went and bought a Porsche Boxster 2001,
yeah.
a convertible. Wasn't expensive. It was like 20 grand. That was a first low tax write-off for that first year in 2020, I believe.
Heaps of fun though, those
It's
cars.
so much fun. Manual. Yeah, it was great. Only kept it about 8 months, and actually, there's a story online about it. You can go and Google it. It was stolen from me, from a gentleman that was a, a serial car theft, and he had done it to so many people like me selling fancy cars. He would arrive in overalls. I mean, sorry, scrubs. Like he was a surgeon. Like
Right.
this is full blown. This story. He arrived at my house. I'm a surgeon. He played the part. He was also a good salesman, and he said, "Look, this is perfect car. This is what I want." He had a cashier's check, and a cashier's check means he's already given the money to the bank.
Yeah,
So I looked at it and go, "There's no problem. You can't rip this check up. You've given the money to the bank. This is legit. All I've got to go and hand it into the bank." And I was silly enough to take that check. It happened to be from the dark web. It was all fake. It had fake serial numbers, even though it looked like a legit Commonwealth check.
yeah,
I went down to the bank, and again, sorry, the reason I was doing this was for another house deposit. I wanted more money. I wanted to go again. I went down to the bank and they said, "Hey, you've lost your Porsche, you've lost your money." I think I was selling it for 17 at the time, 17,000, and it's gone. I went to the police. We had a current affair, and Channel 9 come and do a story on it because they were familiar with this lad. He'd done it all over Melbourne, and he'd served 4 or 5 years in jail. And the minute he got out, he went down to Brisbane or Sunshine Coast, and he started doing it again. He stole my car. The police came. They did nothing about it. I mean, I won't say nothing, but apart from putting it on their stolen police radar, they didn't exactly start going door to door and looking for the car.
Mm.
I was panicking. I went crazy. I started making it viral on the internet, talking to everyone on all the pages. And within a week, I'd found the car. He had taken it to the Gold Coast, this thief, and he had hidden it in this garage and he was trying to sell it because that's what he does.
Yeah.
Someone told me where it was, that he had gone to see it, didn't buy it off him because he didn't get the feel, and all of a sudden I knew where my car was and what was going on. I called the cops and said, "Hey, I'm going right now. I got 6 buddies with me. We're all taking a different car. We're rocking up. We're blocking this fella in, and we're getting my car."
Yeah.
The cops were freaking out. They were saying, "Look, you can do that, but don't do anything illegal. We'll come." Blah blah blah. The cops were about an hour late to the party.
I'm not
I managed to
surprised.
go there, block the car in. One of my friends went to the door and said, "Hey, I want to buy the car." So the thief came out all happy and giddy, thinking he's going to sell the stolen Porsche. Before he knew it, I saw him. I've jumped in the car, grabbed the key, and I've sat there and I've gone, "My car, my
Yeah.
car. Wait for the cops." And I have 5 buddies that are around him. We're not touching him. We're just saying, "You're not going anywhere. We're waiting for the police." So the police ended up coming. They arrested him. I got my car back. I was so happy, and I did another interview, like all good. Cars back. Because of this, it had so much action on the internet that I had I can't remember, but she was quite wealthy, a lady from the Gold Coast that I don't know what she was thinking, but she's like, "Yeah, there's so much hype around your Porsche. I want to buy it. I want to buy it. I'll give you 19 grand." And she came the very next day that I had gotten it back from the police, and I sold it. So I only had a few days to run into the bank before my finance was up on the 30 days for this house that I wanted to buy. And I slapped the money on the counter and when I've got the rest of the deposit, give me the loan, let's go. And it all worked out, mate. And that was the Porsche Boxster.
Wow. Okay. So from there, you've obviously had a few performance cars. Let's talk about the i8. What drew you to the i8?
Well, there's only 2 other cars before it, so I'll say them because there's not much story to them like the other
Yeah.
2. After the Boxster, I needed to lower the taxes again for the following business year, so I went and bought an E92 M3, the last of the V8 M3s, a manual.
Yeah. What
This
color was
one I
that?
did up completely. I won't get into it. You'll put the pictures up, and the pictures will say it all. This was probably the craziest and most done up M3 that I'd ever seen in Australia. It had the same exhaust system actually as the i8 when we get into that, where you've got the controls and you can choose to open it at the valves. So literally right left, where the exhaust starts. That makes the whole city hear you, or you could go to stage 2, or you could go to stage 3, or you could make it like no sound. It's a very expensive exhaust system, around 20 grand, that lets you control the sound of the car in ways that you can't imagine. So I did that, and I tuned the M3 to perfection, kept that for a year or so, sold that again for tax purposes, and then I was starting to be very financially stable. I had a few properties, so I thought, hey, I'm going to go and get myself a family car. I had a girlfriend at the time. I wanted to get a Porsche, a bigger one. So I went and got a 2021, I think, uh, Porsche Macan GTS. The big boy,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that was great. I loved it, but it wasn't that. It wasn't a low sports car like the other ones I'd had. So I only kept that for about a year and a half. But that was $100,000. It was a big step up, and I kept that for a year and a half and sold it, and then it came to what 2 years ago from now, and that's when I went, hey, I've got finances, I've done well, I've paid my taxes, I need a big tax break again. Let's get a supercar. There's one thing in me that I've always hated is filling up the petrol tank with $150 every 3 days. I didn't want to go and get a McLaren or even something even bigger. I didn't want crazy V8s or higher because I knew that I would be spending upwards of 20 grand a year on petrol.
Yeah.
And me being obsessed with BMWs, and I had I was in England long time ago when they first released the i8s, and I remember walking through the BMW headquarters in London, and I saw the i8 for the first time with the doors up, and I remember sitting in there going like, "This is ridiculous!" Like I thinking, "I'll never have this,"
Yeah.
this will be a dream that'll never happen. But
Chris Harris,
when,
the motoring journalist,
yes,
actually said he said it looks like it's been driven straight off a motor show stand, and that is absolutely the case with the i8.
yes, when it came time to buying well, I call it a supercar or something, that was a few hundred thousand. Well, I think the i8s new were 350, I believe, and secondhand you could get them from 150 if they were in not good condition, all the way up to probably 240 if they were in mint condition. So I looked around the country. I'm in Noosa at the time. I've actually sold the dealership in Brisbane to do it up in Noosa, where I now live and where I've done it for the last 3 years. And I look online and I look at all the i8s, and one caught my eye. It was this one that you're going to be showing, my current i8. It was silver and blue with the blue trim. It was in Perth. It only had 25,000 on the clock, full service history, came with 5 years BMW servicing, and also came with the I think it's Presidian or whatever, I forget the name, but they like one of the Australia's best insurance companies for supercars and really expensive vehicles. So it was the total package in that if anything happened to it, I would be covered, and I didn't want any problems. So I was on a flight to Perth the next day, went down there, had a look at this i8, took it for a drive, and I was like, yeah, put it in a truck, send it to Brisbane. I'll pick it up next week. I want this. I called my broker and said, look, get it on finance. I want this car. And here we are. I bought the i8. The
Yeah.
only thing is, I strongly believe that stock, and people are probably going to be saying and thinking this while we're talking about the i8 for the last 5 minutes, they I don't know, but to me, they're ugly when they're stock. They look a little bit squarish, boring, a little bit robotic. I don't know exactly how to put it, but to me, they need to be a little bit done up. They need to have some class to stand out. So
And I think they flew under the radar a little bit because of how BMW launched them. The initial concept at the 2009 International Motor Show in Germany was actually a turbo diesel, which I think floated nobody's boat. And then at the 2013 Frankfurt show is where it was unveiled in its current guise, and it had the three-cylinder turbo engine and an electric motor as well with a 7.1 kilowatt hour battery. So that makes this car all-wheel drive as well.
yes,
So the electric motor is driving the front wheels. You've got the petrol motor driving the rear wheels, and it doesn't
correct.
weigh very much. It only weighs 1,485
Yeah,
kilos.
but it sticks to the ground like you wouldn't imagine. And the back is what? It's a three and a half. It's a three-cylinder Mini Coupe engine in the back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, in stock form, it sprints from 0 to 100 in 4.4 seconds, which is faster than the F80
Ferrari.
BMW.
And
Um,
I've read online that yeah, just using the hybrid mode from zero to 100, it's faster than most Ferraris. Obviously, on a stretch of let's say a few kilometers, I would get smoked because they can get up to crazy. Like I
yeah,
don't think I've taken this thing above 280. You know.
that's plenty. But yeah, that's the thing about this car is it off the line. It's great because it's got that electric motor that gives you the instant torque,
Yeah.
and it's not too dissimilar in concept to hypercars of the day, like the McLaren P1 or the Porsche 918 Spider, and there was the Ferrari LaFerrari, which was also a hybrid sports car as well. So this car was really ahead of its time, and I think it flew under the radar a little bit because it was only sold by certain dealerships.
Yeah, well, they didn't make that many, and I mean they've lost a lot of money doing them, which is why they've discontinued them.
But they only sold 155 of them in Australia, so it is a rare car. And
Yeah,
they only sold them through specialist authorized dealers. So They sold them through South Bank in Melbourne, Rushcutters Bay in Sydney, Brisbane
Right.
BMW and Fortitude Valley, Perth Auto Classic, Adelaide BMW, Rolf Classics in the ACT, and other countries had dedicated BMW i dealers. So it's a very bespoke car and very limited car. How do you find getting it serviced? Like, do you take it to BMW for servicing?
Yeah, I do. Look, I've got like 2 or 3 more years of free BMW servicing. They honestly, they're great. They if they I haven't had to do anything major to it. It's always passed everything, but they've been great with it. The only thing that they've had trouble with is with my wheels. I've got 23-inch forged, black, crazy wheels, and
Yeah.
they're very thick. They come out so far that they can't open the valve. So I had BMW call me and go, "Look, we can't put air in your tires." And I laughed and said, "That's a funny one. Like, in BMW can't figure this out,
Yeah.
guys. In the glove box, there's a little stick that goes into it, and then you can plug into the stick. People will probably have that with some of their cars, but that's the only thing they couldn't figure out to help me out with. But apart from that, look, they've been great at looking after it, and
Yeah.
yeah, no.
And do you ever drive it in just electric mode? Because I think it can do up to 120 k's an hour in electric mode. And
Yeah, yeah, I can get up to 120, and also, I mean, you've only got about 40 or so kilometers on electric mode, depending on how you drive it. Also,
yeah,
depending on summer and winter, I've noticed like the battery can fluctuate.
yeah,
But living in Noosa, it's such a small town. Everything's within like literally under 10 kilometers. I sometimes go a whole month only on electric mode. You know,
yes,
so yeah, it's amazing. I don't spend a dollar on fuel. I plug it in every night or every couple of nights. I can get to the gym, I can get to the shops, I can get to the beach to go have a surf, I can do whatever I want, and I never have to put any petrol in it, which I love.
yeah,
Obviously, because I've done so much to it, now and again, I love to flick the knob into sports mode, which makes it raw, and click my buttons on my exhaust and make it just go spastic, and drive around it, and make some heads turn. So yeah, but even when I do that, like, I still get a combined fuel around 5 liters to the 100, and that's me like going full on flat bang, hitting the paddles, driving it as full on as I can, and making it as loud as possible in the streets of Noosa. And I still look down and like I do 5 liters to the 100. So I'm only putting $40 of fuel in this thing a month.
that's
Like
nuts. Yeah,
it's
driven
nuts.
normally, I think BMW claims that it only uses 2.1 liters of fuel
Yeah,
per 100
yeah.
kilometers, which is
But
just crazy.
with the tune and all the things that I did to it, it's bumped it up a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
if you like, I can read out everything that I did to it.
Well,
I've
well,
got notes because
let's
I'll
talk
forget.
about let's talk about what you've done to it, because you've got this really interesting exhaust on it. Tell us a bit about that.
Right, so it's an FI valved exhaust with controls. So FI is I'm pretty sure is the company that sell this particular exhaust that only goes on particular cars. It was a similar version that I had on the E92 M3, and they also built one for the i8. They probably did that because it was kind of boring with its fake sounds and it being in electric mode. And when you had it in hybrid, it just didn't sound the part for a supercar that had butterfly wings. So they thought, hey, let's bring out this exhaust, and we'll probably, market it out to everyone around the world that wanted their i8s to sound crazy. Now, I believe I'm the only one in Australia that's done it. I know that there's only 8 i8s for sale on CarSales currently, and none of them look anything like mine.
No,
So
yours.
anyway, the exhaust is you can look it up, guys. It's the FI valved exhaust with controls. That's it. There's not much more to it. You can control the
It's a
exhaust.
$20,000 exhaust new.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 20K, but mate, it sounds like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or what have you. It just, especially when you hit the flaps and you put it in manual mode and you stay in first gear and you get it up to 7,000 revs, going only about 40, 50 kilometers an hour. It blows the wind,
Yeah.
blows your dress up.
So
So I did that. What else did I do? I did the lowering kit. So it
yeah,
was really the perfect ride height. That was probably 5 or 6 grand. I did the stage 2 tune, which I think it's exactly what the i8 needs. It gives it more acceleration, more speed. It gave the exhaust more grunt, way better gear changes, and it increased my power, my 0 to 100 to 3.7 seconds. You can look it up if
Yeah,
you do the
wow.
stage. Yeah, so
And
that's
who
when.
did that tune? Who was it that did the tune? Do you remember?
Oh, it's in Brisbane. I I forget the shop, mate. I deal with so many shops and so many.
Yeah,
With
that's
being
all
in the
right.
car dealer game, I do so much that I can't remember exactly who did it, but they did the stage two tune. We'd lowered it, and then I went and did a full carbon fiber kit. So I put the front lip and side lip, and I put the spoiler on the back, which you'll show in all the photos, which has completely transformed it. You know, it doesn't even look like an i8 in a way because it's just full on.
Yeah, so for
Oh,
those of you
yeah.
who are listening and want to know what this car looks like, we'll have all the photos of the car on performancecarlounge.com.au. And also, if you want to watch the YouTube version of this podcast, we'll have all the photos popping up through there. And so, Hugo, this car's done 35,000 Ks. It's got drop dead gorgeous supercar looks, butterfly doors, supercar performance. It was over $300,000 new. It's had, at least $60,000 worth of modifications done to it. And I guess the big question now is, what are you asking for this car?
I'm actually being very modest with the price. I believe if you look at all the other i8s, they're all around, like I said, 150 to 200 grand. They're all stock and they have similar kilometers. So you'd be completely nuts to go and buy one of those over mine because mine is priced around that, which we'll get to in a second. Unless you're the enthusiast that wants the stock. I get it. I know all the old guys, they want the stock version. Go for it, no problem. But if you're a young fellow with some capital and you want something that really is going to be flashy and there's no way you wouldn't go for mine. This time around, I'm selling it because I've been going to Indonesia, Bali, and the islands for the last 5 years on and off during my business here, and I started some businesses over there. I have a little hotel going in Indonesia, and I've met a lovely lady that I'm going to go and marry.
Oh,
So
congratulations. What's
thank
the
you,
name of
thank
the
you.
hotel?
Yeah, well, so we bought a house there as well. We've got the business there, plus we've got a house, and I want to basically do, I don't know, 6 months on, 6 months off. I haven't quite figured it out, but I'm at that stage where I don't have to sell cars all the time.
Yeah.
I also started a car rental company a year and a half ago, so I bought a fleet of 20, cheap-ish Camrys that we all know how reliable they are, and that to me is money without having to do anything. It's great buying and selling cars, but when you've got when you can sit overseas while you've got 20 cars that are rented non-stop, you're making, what's the word? It's not coming to me. I've lost my tongue. Well,
There's
passive
passive
income.
income.
That's
Yeah.
it. So I
Yeah.
wanted to I wanted to be able to get a lot of passive income, so my financials stayed high while I could invest in Indonesia and try and build an empire there as well as Australia.
Yeah,
So
and
so
do you
that
wanna
led
plug
me.
your hotel? What's the name of your hotel in Bali?
It's,
Because
it's
lots of
called Coral Paradise in Gili Trawangan.
Okay, alright. Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners frequent Bali as a holiday destination, so, check it
Yeah,
out.
give me a buzz on Instagram or whatever, and then if you want, I'll give you a discount. Or if you've got a cool car, we can talk about it. You can stay for free. Why not?
Alright. And I don't think we actually got to the price of what
Yeah.
you're asking.
Well, so because I want to shift off to Indonesia, to stay with her and that. I don't want to sit. This is a sad thing. You don't want to sit the i8 in the garage. That battery needs to be charged. It needs to be run. The car needs to be used. I am not going to be the guy that locks a car away in a garage for the next 5 years. So I've spent a lot more on this one. I don't think I've ever lost money on any of the other cars that I sold, the fancy ones. But on this one, I've lowered it, I think, to 155. Now that is, I believe, a bargain. I paid more for it, and then we've gone and spent 60K on all the mods. I'm trying to be fair because I want to get it out of the door quickly. Look, I've had it for a couple of years. I love it. In a way, I want to keep it my whole life. But I see myself having children soon and being, here and there and taking my life to the next level with this young lady. So I don't. obviously I'm going to come and buy some great cars in the future again. I don't see that ever stopping, but my time with the i8 sadly is over, and I think that 155 is an absolute steal. Like, you'd have to be crazy to not realize that. It's got very low kilometers. It still comes with the 5-year warranty with Precision, which it covers the entire car, no matter what happens to it. Plus, it's still got 2 or 3 years of free servicing at BMW. It's got all of the mods that I've done to it. There's nothing wrong with it body wise. It looks perfect, mate. I'm actually shocked that no one's. It's only been up for a few weeks, but why hasn't anyone buzzed me to buy it? Maybe with this recession and with all that's happening in Australia, no one's got any money to spend. But hey, what is going on?
Yeah, well, if you're interested in this car and you want to look good, go fast, and save money on petrol, head to the
That's
Performance
it.
Car Lounge website, and we'll link you through to the ad to the BMW i8 and have the information there as well. And that's the way you can get in touch with Hugo.
Yeah,
So
anyone's welcome to come down to Noosa. I'll take you for a drive. If we can check it out, and you're welcome to, yeah, go for a drive with me. No problem.
that's a great offer. Now, I just want to get to what is currently the most expensive car advertised on CarSales today. So this car is advertised for $2.099 million. It's not a new car. It's a dealer car. It was built in 2018 and it's traveled 4,382 Ks. It's an automatic. It also has butterfly doors like Hugo's BMW i8 and does 0 to 100 in 2.8 seconds. Hugo, do you want to hazard a guess as to the manufacturer
And
of
there's
the car?
there's so many possible cars that come to
Yeah,
mind. I mean,
there is.
obviously you got your Bugattis that are worth, but I don't know if there's any currently up for sale in Australia. People that have them are most likely hanging on to them, because they're just too much, aren't they? In value and in status, I guess, for the people that are looking for that. Okay, I guess.
I'd put it in the hypercar category.
Oh, it's probably a McLaren or
Spot on. You're
yeah. Oh,
spot on,
yeah,
Hugo.
yeah.
It's a McLaren Senna, 2018 McLaren Senna, $2.099 million. So if you've got heaps of money burning a hole in your pocket
Oh, I
and
can't buy that.
dominate your local track day, that McLaren Senna could be for you. But if you're on a bit of a tighter budget, then perhaps check out Hugo's BMW i8 with the modifications, which is probably just as fast in the real world.
Yeah, and hopefully it looks just as good. I mean, look, personally, I don't like McLarens because they break down every third day.
Maybe some McLaren owners will either come in and confirm Hugo's opinion there or let us know that he's not correct. But thank you very much for joining us today, Hugo. Wish you all the best for the sale of your BMW i8.
Thank you, Stuart. It was great to be on. Have a good day, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at Performance Car Lounge. If you have a performance car with an interesting story that you are selling, contact us at performancecarlounge.com.au.